Hi, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you're in the world. Maybe you're watching live, maybe you're in replay. Welcome. I want to share today a little bit about my journey with abundance and how I opened to abundance. Originally, I wanted to make short chapters for YouTube, but I already have so many videos for YouTube ready, and I thought, let's do it on Instagram. I haven't done a live in such a long time. So I'm going to share my own journey, the different stepping stones, bonjour, what happened and the different jobs I had and how I started to make more money and the questions I asked myself. And I will also share powerful questions with you because I know how important it is so that you can reflect on your own journey. So I have notes here on the side. I'm going to read my notes like bullet points so that I don't forget important chapters. It was pretty easy to prepare because I already did it in French previously. A few years ago, I had some podcasts with several chapters about my evolution of my relationship with money. I think 7 podcast episodes, like short ones. So if you're French speaking and you want to listen to them, please look in my podcast. It's called L'évolution de mon rapport à l'abondance. And you can find 7 chapters, so it's pretty cool. So let's dive into it. Maybe I'll start with who I am now, and then I'll reflect to who I was starting from scratch. So now I'm 41 and 3/4. I'm going to be 42 this year. I live in Bali, and my net worth is about 1.3 million. And it was not like this. It didn't happen in a night. It happened with many years, and I worked on myself quite a bit. And I started to befriend abundance, and I made it a great lover. So that's what I want to share with you. But I'm going to share how it happened and the stepping stones. So I was born in Nantes, in the west of France. I am from French parents, and my father was originally from Morocco. His family was from Morocco. They didn't have a lot of money. They were just very simple people. They worked for the government. They both were civil servants, and they were making enough money. You know, it was a decent salary. They worked their whole lives for the same jobs, and they didn't make a lot of money. We had enough, but we never traveled abroad. There was nothing fancy, but we had enough to live on a daily basis. And my parents really were all about security, like security, save money, find a job which is secure, always the same money every month, really don't live like a bohemian. That was more of the spirit. So I'm going to share step by step. So I grew up in stability, but also there was a lot of stagnation and fear around money. I didn't have any entrepreneurial models around me, only people who worked as employees and civil servants. Thank you, Noemi. I also love it. The painting behind me, I found it on Etsy, and I had it printed in a large canvas, and it's also now my wallpaper on my computer. I really love it. It reminds me that I can create anything if I bring in colors into my life. So I started to work. My first job ever was to teach some different things to students which were younger than I was. So I taught English. I think there was a little bit of French and different things. Maybe I was 14 or 15 years old. So I already enjoyed teaching and helping people who were a little bit younger than me on the same journey. I really liked it. So I did that for many years when I was a teenager. And then I had my first real job at 18 to work as a postal assistant at my dad's job, and it was only a 1-month experience, but it felt like it lasted 6 months. I hated it. It was terrible. I found it boring. It was terrible. And after this first experience, I found jobs in retail. So I worked for Zara, H&M, different brands, and I really enjoyed that. I loved the energy. I loved the community. I loved that it was connected to something pretty. I just enjoyed being surrounded by other women. It was fun for me. And then I worked at the cinema. I sold toys, different things like that. I did it for the money because I wanted to have pocket money, and I did it because I felt free and I just enjoyed having different experiences. So I was very young, like 18 to 20, 21. There was a lot of conflicts at home when we were talking about money with my parents, because I had the feeling that money had to circulate, you know, you have to spend it and then it comes back to you and you have to give your best and everything. And there was some trust, like I trusted that money would always come back, but my parents were not like that. They were full of fears and there was scarcity, and that came back to me when I started to live alone. So I started to live alone at 21, and the fears that my parents gave me came back to me. And when I was under their roof, I was more standing for my own beliefs, and then when I started to live alone, I started to be afraid like them. So yeah, something happened. And then I moved in with my boyfriend a little bit later. So I first lived with someone, it didn't really work, and then my boyfriend moved in, and then we rented a truck for him to move in, and we had a small accident, and we had to spend 1,500 euros that we didn't have, and I had to take a loan in order to pay that. So I went to the bank, and the banker, which was super friendly, she assessed my situation, and she was like, oh, you have several jobs, you do this and you do that. Originally, I studied art, but I didn't work in art. I worked in the cinema and, you know, H&M and different things. And she said, you don't make enough money, you could make much more money. Would you like to apply to the bank? I was like, really? Why would I work at the bank? Like, I'm not a banker, I didn't study banking stuff. But she said, we hire different kind of people, and you seem to be good with people, you're friendly, you're smart, so why don't you pass the tests? And then she got me a banking job at 23. And it's interesting because everybody was super proud of me. I was happy, but that was not my dream job. And my boyfriend at the time, he was trying to get into the bank, but he was applying to many banks, and his profile was very. So many people had his profile because he had done the same BTS like so many people did, and I didn't, and I entered the bank, so he was pretty jealous at that time. There was a lot of benefits, you know, lots of holidays, job security. I could even get loans and things like that, which I didn't, you know, I didn't make the most of that. But there was no creative freedom. And they gave me a communication project because my background was art and communication. And I did great, and then they gave me another project, and then I prepared a folder to give them like new ideas to make a animation in the different banks. And then somebody came to me and said, hey, these are great ideas, but ideas come from the top, they don't come from the bottom. And that lit a fire in me at that time, and I knew I had to leave because I wanted to be at the top. So something really happened to me at that time. And I understood at that time that security was just a shiny cage. Let's be honest. It was not what I was aiming for. And I remember when I told my mom that I was going to leave the bank, I got really angry, and I had to hang up on her. Like, she really didn't understand why I was leaving such a good job. But for me, I was dying inside, so it's just not possible. Then I used a government grant to go back to school for a master's degree in communication. I moved twice. I did 1 year in Angers, and then I did 1 year in Paris. I took risks, I trusted the unknown, and I moved to Paris with very little money. I remember I was getting 900 a month because I previously worked for a little bit of time, and my rent was 600 a month. So that was pretty bold. But despite the struggle, I really wanted to get the experience, and I was eager to learn, and I was eager to discover what I was capable of. So there was some bravery there. So yeah, and then I was a bit disappointed because I thought that having degrees would guarantee security, which was not the case. A lot of people had similar profile like me in Paris, so it was hard to get a job that I liked. But I choose always to pursue what I thought was possible, even when the money was tight. So the questions I want to share with you at that point are related to what beliefs you inherited from your family about money, And are they still serving you today? Because I had a lot of beliefs that I had to work on so that I could break free and move forward in my life. I didn't realize that at that time, but I realized later, but those, I dropped them here. And where in your past did you know that something was right for you, but maybe you let fear or outside expectations take over? So you just decided to stay in the job because it was easier, and maybe because everyone else was afraid for you. I'm going to copy the questions below the replay when I will confirm the replay to stay on my feed. Then then I was in my 20s. I was in Paris. I had different jobs and it didn't work out. And then I finally got a job where it did work out, and I really liked it, where I stayed for about 2.5 years or something like that. I started to work for a dating website created by 2 ambitious brothers, and I was very grateful that they trusted me. I was the first employee. It was a startup, and before me there was only interns. It was fresh, it was dynamic, it was full of possibilities, and it was my first taste in leadership, and I had a lot of responsibility, and I could be a visionary, and my ideas were respected, so that was a great experience for me. But after a while, those people who had created this company in France, but the real company was in the US, they were doing something which was not really clear, and they betrayed my trust, and I was unfairly fired after a while, and I ended up in court with them. So I had to go to court. That was pretty heavy, and I won. So that's good, but it took me a while, and there was a lot of cost because it made me really angry, and I was very disappointed, and I thought I would stay in this company for a very long time. So I had invested a lot of my energy for something that was not mine. So there was a realization also that, oh my God, I give them all of this, and then they just fired me from one day to another, the American way, which is not the French way, by the way. So yeah, so I lost my job. I had no income, no employment benefits because they were firing me wrongly, and I had to burn through my savings. So I didn't have much. So that was really hard. That was very humbling for me. I had to ask money to my parents, and I didn't get along with my parents. So I felt like I owed them. And then I gave them back the money when I won my trial, but that was really hard for me. And at that time, this is the first time I got a coach. I got a coach because she was a friend of a friend, and she was very sweet, and she saw me struggling. She gave me a very small price, and she helped me realize how controlling I was. And I agree, I was very controlling in my 20s, also a little bit in my 30s. Now I'm getting better, you know. I was talking about Christian yesterday, my husband, and I said something like, I would never go back to my 20s, and not even to my 30s for anything. I'm so much better now. I feel better now in my skin. I'm less controlling. I'm more welcoming of what is. I'm more embracing the fullness of who I am, and there is nothing that I miss from the past. So coaching helped me to be a little bit more relaxed, and also to envision that something else was possible in my life. So I was maybe 29, something like that. And just before I got fired, I discovered naturopathy because I had insomnia, and I had also a lot of anxiety. And I went to a hospital, and this hospital said, oh, you have no problem, no physiological problem, but you don't know how to sleep. And if you would work on having better days with a naturopath, you could have better nights. So that's what I started to do. And I started my healing journey, emotional healing journey, physical, and even spiritual, I would say. And at the same time, I also went a lot to therapy. So that was a big shift in my life. It was between 29 years old and 31, 32. There was a big turning point. I attempted to find a job when I got fired, and I started to learn about holistic healing at the same time. I didn't feel that both things could be related. So I thought that holistic healing could be a passion and a hobby. And I thought that, you know, I had to have a proper job to make a living because of how I was raised by my family. I didn't think that they could get together. So I first attempted to find a job in dating websites, which was what I used to do. I didn't find it. So I created a company so that I could be self-employed and do the same thing like I used to do. I did that for about a year and I failed. It was really hard for me to fail. I felt like it was the end of the world, really, and that I was losing everything, that I would end up under a bridge. And then some people came to me and said, you have skills that we would like to have. We would like to build a company with you and with one of your former colleagues too. And we could do that all together. We were 10 of us. And I onboarded for this experience. So that was my second company. And it lasted for a year and a half. We created all together a dating website. And I participated in another experience of dating website. Maybe that's why I love to talk so much about love. And I didn't have money to bring into this experience, but I had the skills. So some people brought money and I brought the skills. And I gave my all. I worked so hard for this company and we didn't succeed. And that was really hard for me. So I had several failures around my 30th birthday. And that was really hard for me. But also I tried, you know. I was proud that I tried. And I was also grateful that at that time I was studying on the weekend to become a naturopath as a hobby. And I had that, you know, when I lost everything, I didn't lose that. And that was very important to me because I understood that if I could be healthy, I could have everything. That there was something there that was really rich, that made me feel full, that made me feel complete, that made me feel like I've got something that I can take care of and that I will never lose. So that was a big deal for me. So I'm going to check my notes because I'm afraid to forget some stuff. Okay, so the questions for this chapter. What stories are you telling yourself about your failures? And how those stories might be holding you back from trying again? And where in your life did you resist asking for help? And what becomes possible if you allow yourself to receive? So, yeah, those are pretty heavy questions, but they were so important to me. Then, let's continue. I would say chapter 3, trusting the path and saying yes before knowing the how. During my time studying naturopathy, I started to work in an organic shop. And I liked it. I was an intern and that was pretty cool. And I couldn't help but comparing myself with other people because it was the beginning of my 30s. And most of my friends, they were starting to buy a house. They were building a family. They were getting married. I was single. I was living in a tiny apartment in Paris. And I was an intern, you know, I was wearing my tablier, I don't know how you, apron. And I was just selling bread, and I was like telling people what kombucha is good for and stuff like that, and finding probiotics for them and things like that. But I enjoyed it. It was connected to a higher purpose. I really wanted to help and to serve, and I enjoyed it. And I understood that there was another way to feel rich, because I felt rich at that time because of the knowledge and because of the inner joy and the connection to my purpose. I was touching what my dharma could be, and I felt in alignment much more than before. But also I had created more alignment in my life because I was sleeping better, I was feeling more joyful, my hormones were more in alignment too, and I was just taking care of myself overall, which is super important. It's interesting because I didn't seek success and money. I was seeking to be living a harmonious life and not to be in fight or flight all the time, and not to feel triggered and not having panic attacks and not being stressed to the point that I couldn't sleep. You know, I was trying to find solutions for that when I discovered naturopathy, and I was diving deep into that. So I would say that it created a fertile ground for me to raise and to really be a healthy, happy person that could then create big stuff and hold the money and hold the success. which is pretty great. I'm really grateful that it happened this way and that it was incrementally changing step by step. This so for a while I was a student, so I studied naturopathy, and then one more year I studied Ayurveda, and meanwhile I was working here and there. I got really smart having different jobs, you know, and I got really smart at trading skills. For example, I really wanted to go to a beautiful big event in Paris for naturopaths from all over the world, and I wrote them and I said, hey, I don't have a lot of money, would you have me as an intern instead of having me pay everything? And they said, yes, come on board. And I was an intern one time, and then the year after they contacted me and they said, we would like to make you Secretary General because you're very reliable and we trust you. So I started to get more credit for what I was giving and who I was. So I was not receiving money, but I was receiving some kind of recognition and respect, and I was building a network. I was creating something for myself. So I was still broke, but I was making enough money to live month by month. And it was working for me because I was full of what I was learning. So that was a pretty great chapter of my life. It was not comfortable, but it was comfortable enough for me to keep going. And by that time, I was living in a very tiny apartment, like 14 square meters. I had a bed that I had to fold every night, and it was every morning. It was not fun in that sense, but I was living in Paris and it was beautiful, so that was pretty cool too. Today, I wouldn't live in Paris, you know, even if you would pay me, I wouldn't live in Paris. I'm so happy to live far away from that, but, you know, we're post-COVID, so I don't know, things have changed too. What else? I wanted to travel. And I didn't have much money, and I wanted to have meaningful experiences. And at this naturopathic congress, I discovered that there were naturopaths all over the world. And as I was still a student, there was a possibility for me to ask for internships. So I did it. So I sent a lot of letters, and I got 2 internships. So 2014, I had one in Hawaii on Big Island. It was beautiful, 1 month in Hawaii. So I paid my ticket myself, but then everything was covered. They hosted me, they fed me, it was perfect. And the year after, I went to Bali, and I just had same, you know, Bali is very cheap. It was pretty easy, much cheaper than Hawaii. But at that time, the flight tickets were so expensive to me, but I had to make it happen, you know. I was spending like half of my savings to make that happen, and I really wanted to have the experience, and that planted the seed of becoming the woman that I am today. And I'm so happy that I did it, that I listened to the calling, and I didn't just think, oh no, I should save this 1,000 something euros. No, I did it, and it just gave me so much more ideas of who I could be. So that was awesome. I'm really glad I did that. So that was 2014, 2015. At the same period of time, I was studying Ayurveda just after I started, after I finished naturopathy, and I wanted to help the Ayurvedic teacher to write a book about sinusitis. And I really wanted to be his assistant, not asking for anything in return. And I went to get publishers for him, and they didn't want to do the book. But then they called me back and they said, hey, would you like to write your own book? We could give you naturopathy for dummies. And I said, yeah, why not? So I wrote my first book. And I was so bad at negotiating. I didn't negotiate anything because I was so happy that they wanted to give me a book, you know. So I wrote Naturopathy for Dummies for 2,400 euros for 9 months of work. Because, you know, it felt right. And I was already so grateful. And I should have negotiated my contract, because now I only have like 2% of each sale, which is ridiculous. And this book became a bestseller, and the publisher made so much money, and I made like this money. That was really, really crazy. I found ways to reduce my cost of living at that time. So I went to Morocco, for example, for like a month. And I was doing a lot of freelancing, so I was smart to continue making a living while I started to write. And because I was good, I gave my book on time, and apparently it's pretty rare among writers, and the book was well written and everything, they gave me new books. So I wrote about 7 books within 4 years, so it was part of my income. And I became also a little bit better at negotiating. So one tip for writers, and I also have a program for writers, it is that you can negotiate that, for example, below 5,000 copies sold, you can have like 2 or 3%, but then when it's above, you can negotiate, and then above 10,000, etc., etc., which now I will always do when I negotiate a book, but you know, I didn't know. Writing books didn't make me rich, but it helped me build my credibility and grow my ability to express myself, and also it's very much connected to my soul contribution. So it's great for me. I'll keep writing books forever. Now I wrote about 13 books and I intend to continue. So even if it didn't make sense to me financially to make some choices, you know, studying naturopathy and doing internships across the world, although I didn't know what I would do about naturopathy exactly, and saying yes to writing books, although I knew it would not bring me a lot of money, I said yes, and somehow there's a part of me which trusted the path to appear. And here are my questions for you with this chapter. Where in your life are you waiting for everything to be ready instead of trusting yourself to begin? Like, where do you feel that you need to know the outcome before diving into something just because it's exciting to you, because you just want to have the experience? And then what resources, support, or magic might appear if you fully commit to your path, even without knowing how it will all work out. Okay, let's continue. I have no idea how long it's been, and I think it's only for an hour. Okay. Then what happened? I started to practice naturopathy. It was 2016, I think, 9 years ago, in 2 clinics in Paris. And I was very flexible on the terms because I only wanted to fill in the gaps. And I was working, what happened is that every time I would have clients, I would give 20% of what I was making to the clinic, but I was only filling the gaps, and I was not choosing my hours. I was working when they were not working, which was perfect for me because not having children, not having boyfriends, I could just work on the weekends, I could work in the evenings, I could work on the Wednesdays and everything. So I did that for a while and it worked really well for me. So I started to build my clientele from scratch. You know, I had to do networking, speaking in bookstores. I had to give a lot of free sessions and collaborate with other therapists. It was a whole journey, and it was not easy, and it didn't happen overnight, but it learned me a lot. Also, I'm much more of an introvert and more of a shy person, so I had to go out of my own way, and I had to learn how to grow those skills and reach my people authentically, you know, so that from the heart. So I did that by serving and consistently showing up. So I learned at that time the power of consistency and the compounded effects of my efforts every day, and that I still do to that day. I'm still showing up every day. It's interesting how it grew for me. And then I didn't really want to be tied up to one location. I wanted to travel more, and I decided to, as I was continuing to write, I was trying to go away for like 6 weeks or 2 months and write a book and eventually do a few sessions online. And then when I would come back to Paris, I would have a lot more sessions with my clients, which were waiting for me to come back. So there was this nice flow that I created for a few years where I would sublet my apartment in Paris, and I would just travel the world, and I was writing books and giving a few online sessions, not much. Before COVID, people were not so much about having naturopathy online. I was also doing EFT. I had just a handful of clients online, but I was also writing books. And then when I was going back to Paris, I had a lot of sessions with my clients. And yeah, I started also to grow my Instagram account. I started to share. At the beginning, it was really hard for me because I didn't want to be seen. And I did stuff which were very boring to me, you know, about naturopathy, about fasting, about the sauna, about ginger, about things like that. And not Ginger, my cat, but about ginger, the root. And I don't know, it didn't feel exciting to me to be on Instagram. Hey, Amel, cuckoo. And then I started to like it because of the feedback, because of the people I met online. And without Instagram, I would not have been able to meet so many great people who have similar values. So now I'm super grateful for it. But at that time, I was very much rejecting social media. I think I was mostly afraid of it and afraid of fully showing up and to be seen and everything. And I also didn't understood at that time that I had to be the one to set boundaries and to really, you know, block people if I had to and set the rules, because this is my home, this is my queendom. And I had to learn that, you know, just like everyone has to learn that. I never considered myself as an influencer or a content creator. I always considered myself as a naturopath, a writer, a coach, an EFT practitioner, all those things. And only now I embrace more about being a content creator. I don't know, maybe I'm just happy that I already made it in a way, you know, with my skills as a therapist, helping people, as a coach. And now I'm ready to take over the world and make like videos which will be broadly seen about all over the world. It's just a different chapter of life. Then I discovered The Secret, the movie The Secret. I was like, I don't know when it was, but maybe 2017 or something like that. And yeah, it changed a lot of things for me to understand these kind of things. I was not into it before, and I started really to shift from waiting for things to happen to me and taking more radical responsibility for things. And I started to listen to Wayne Dyer, to Oprah, which I'm not listening to anymore, but Wayne Dyer still very much. And I was very much into EFT for many years and matrix re-imprinting, you know, also Joe Dispenza and things like that. And I understood that coaching would be a great addition to what I was doing. And I had a great EFT teacher, which was also teaching coaching. So I followed her in India. Again, I spent a lot of money into investing into learning new skills. And I understood that coaching was a big deal. I had been judging it until that point because I thought that it was less noble than being a naturopath somehow, because naturopathy was all about healing and coaching was more connected to me about ambition and making money and all those things. But I had to understand that actually the story you tell yourself about what you're capable of impact all the areas of your life. They impact your health, they impact your overall well-being, your ability to connect with others, your ability to show up in life. And then it was like mind-blowing for me to understand how I was thinking my whole life, and that there was another way to think, and that I could be bolder, and that I could be greater, that actually I was greater, but I was ignoring it. It was super interesting. So it opened so many doors. And then I was diving so much more into coaching. I participated into 5 coaching trainings as a student, and I took a leap. I took a leap. My identity was very much tied up to being a holistic therapist, because I wrote about 10 books about natural medicine, naturopathy for dummies, and how to do fasting and how to take care of yourself and everything. So I had spent so many years building this identity of being a naturopath, an EFT practitioner. Suddenly I had to let go of something it's like you have a small gift in your hands, and then you have to let go of the small gift so that you can take the big gift. That's what happened at that time. And it was 2017, 2018. And I decided to stop being a naturopath. I mean, I still am a naturopath at heart, but this is no longer what I practice, only for myself. And I was diving deep into coaching. And once again, I started fresh. So in naturopathy, I was already established, and in coaching, I was a nobody. So I gifted for free, I don't know, maybe 40 or 60 sessions, and I started with a very small price, and then incrementally I raised my price, and I was so passionate about it, and I was really good at it, and I'm still pretty great at it. And yeah, within 3 months, my calendar was full, and it started to work really, really well for me. So my questions for you related to this chapter: what part of your current identity are you clinging to? even though you know it no longer fits who you're becoming. And if you fully trusted that more was meant for you, what would you stop doing today? And what would you finally say yes to? Then, well, you know, I created overflow after that. It's like, it was a big tsunami of abundance. So you see, so far, it was reasonable abundance. And then I took off. So I think maybe 2018, I made 50K or something like that. And then 2019, something like 80K. And then 2020, I think 120K. And then 2021, 600K. And then 2022, $1 million with my company. Not as an income, but with my company, without buying ads or anything, and not spending that much. So that was a lot of benefit. And then yeah, I started other things after that, you know, because there are new levels. And I started also to be an investor. I diversified a lot. I had this question the other day, what made me took off? What happened? So I was doing a lot of one-on-one sessions, and I loved it, but I was overwhelmed. It was full. So I started to create other things, you know. I started to teach first. I was not the teacher of my course. I taught for 2 years the classes of one of my former coach and teacher. So for 2 years, I taught his course, and then I created my own in 2021. Then I started to create online programs and ebooks and things like that. And it was, at the beginning, it was really modest success, but then I became better at it. I became better at making them, and I became better at selling them. And just as the diversification, it took a while. I know that some people, they go on my website and they think, oh, she's got so many courses. But you know, I created maybe 2-3 courses per year. So yeah, I have a lot because I've been in the market for a very long time. So, you know, if you've been doing that for 5, 6, 7 years, and you create 2-3 courses per year, then you have a lot, because I'm a creator and I love what I do. So I work a lot and I like it. But also, I didn't exhaust myself, because I had the good foundation of knowing how to take care of myself, how to sleep enough, how to eat well, how to get some sun, how to detox, how to prioritize also my overall well-being and relationships and everything. So I didn't have to sacrifice a part of me to grow to that level of success. I also want to share that I stopped at some point to wait for something to happen from the outside, like wait to be discovered, wait to be receiving a certain form of inheritance or win the lottery or something like that. You know, I started to stop waiting for a savior to change my life, and I started to take it into my own hands. And actually, one funny thing happened is that the year that I made a lot of money, that I passed the threshold of 120,000 euros, I did a lot of healing about my relationship with money. And at the end of that year, my parents sold something that they had, and then they decided to give me money and to my brother too. And I was like, oh, you want to give me something now? That's interesting, because 1, I'm more open to receive, and 2, I already have a lot. Like, I wish you had done that 5 years ago, because I had nothing. And it's very interesting how when you're open to making more and receiving more money, actually much more is coming in so many ways, and you cannot really anticipate that. It just happens because you're a different person. So you're just manifesting a different reality. And I do believe that the universe responds to embodied abundance. It means that year after year, I started to be a more abundant person because of the experience I had, because of the choices I made, because of the trust I had in myself, and also the trust that I started to have more in life. As I was following my heart more, I understood that life had greater plans for me, and that I had to be willingly participating in these plans, you know, that I had to say yes to them, and not having like one foot in and one foot out, but really be all in and decide to go for it. And every time I made decisions to buy a course, to take a trip or something, it's like the universe would rearrange itself so that it would make it possible, because I would find a new client, I would have a new book deal, somehow something would happen, but I was always proactive anyway. But I would make things happen because I had decided that it had to happen. So that was pretty amazing. So what are the questions for this chapter? Let me see. Oh, there is so much more. 2020, that's also the year that I started to invest in crypto, and I made a lot of money. That was a great bull run. And then I lost a lot of money, so I started to learn about that too. And that was also a great impactful year for me with COVID, because I spoke my truth a lot. And by speaking my truth, because I was anti bullshit and anti masking and the crazy injection and all those things, the distance, all those things that were completely mad. And I spoke my truth on social media, and a lot of people who were thinking, similarly, they could also find me. And that was a great time for me. So I lost a lot of my followers, and I gained a lot of new followers who really trusted me because I was speaking my truth. And a lot of people were just hiding and, playing like Switzerland. Oh no, I'm not saying what I think. I'm not saying out loud what I think in my head. No, well, I did. And it was pretty rewardful for me. So rewarding for me. I'm very happy I did it. And I would do it again, like anytime. So my questions for you for this chapter are: where are you still waiting for something or someone to rescue you, instead of fully stepping into your power to create? And if you believed abundance was already yours, how would you show up differently in your work, your pricing, and your vision? That will help you shift from hope to really embodiment. Okay, so then during COVID, I was living in Berlin with Christian that I met in 2018, and then after a while in Berlin, and I enjoyed living with him in Berlin. It was actually, at some point, it was good, and then I hated it because people were just too much following the rules like robots, like they didn't learn anything about their history. It's crazy. And I told him I was drying. We met in the tropics. We met in Bali. And I told him, I said, I'm going to die if I keep living in Berlin, in Germany. It's not working for me. So let's take off. Let's leave. And we left for Costa Rica because it was open for unvaccinated people, free people. And we had never been to Costa Rica before. We just moved there. And it was crazy because it was so expensive. We had no idea they would be so pricey. And I was making more money, but life was actually requesting so much more of us. That was just insane. So we started to pay higher and higher and higher prices for rent. Especially, it was very important for me to be able to continue working and have a proper internet with the generator and everything, because in Costa Rica, there are power cuts all the time. I realized that abundance had become my natural state at that point. It was totally normal for me to start making a lot of money, because I think I was abundant already inside. I was full of love. I was full of, I had met myself in another way, which is what I teach in my course, Make Money from the Heart, how to meet yourself, your talents, and own who you are, and not trying to be somebody different. And I just had discovered that I had talent, and that the world needed that talent if I was willing to offer it to the world. So it felt totally natural for me to continue creating courses and teaching and coaching and having groups and all those things. It was my natural state, and it still is. I had always been abundant, but I didn't know. It's like, because I was trying to fit in before, like in my 20s, finding a job and trying to fit in the boxes that I had seen before. I didn't know who I was fully, and the discovery, the self-discovery, and the trying stuff took me a few years, but then it became totally natural to be paid for who I am and what I have to offer. So that was pretty cool. It is pretty cool. I love it. It's still who I am to that day. So I took more risks, just offering different kind of courses. I started to do things about love. I started to do just different things because of who I am. I just wanted to show up the way I am and not trying to copy paste what other people were doing to be successful. And that worked pretty well for me because, I just followed my own calling. And every time that I had to express my identity and show who I am in the world, it felt uncomfortable and still does. Like, for example, now working in English, it's still a bit uncomfortable. Although I live in English, I know I stumble on words. I know that sometimes my accent is not always easy to understand for everyone. I think it's easy for French people, but it's not easy for everyone. And it's, I made a choice that I decided to show up and to not live in lack at some point. And that really, I created something there. And even in my personal life, it showed up because, so I live an unconventional kind of love because I'm in an open relationship. And I have a boyfriend that we met together 2 years ago. And at the beginning, we were saying to each other quite a lot, oh, I miss you because I can only see you a few hours here or a few days here, but I don't have that much time with you. And at some point, it was a few months after we started the relationship, I told him, I said, I don't do scarcity. I can't do scarcity. It's not. I work too much on my relationship with abundance. And I know that the stories that I tell myself impact me a lot. So I don't want to tell you that I miss you. I want you to tell me that you miss me. I want us to rephrase that and to say that there is always enough time and that we will always find time and that the most important is to have quality time. And it worked, it totally worked. And we started to manifest more time together and to really be always super grateful about everything instead of feeling tight. And I was not like that 10 years ago. I recreated myself because I rewired my thinking, because I questioned my beliefs, because I understood that my inner world is not something that I don't have a grasp on. I can totally work on all those shifts internally and then they manifest externally. So this is really, really big. I started also to dream bigger and to realize that I can have an impact. And I started to give big donations and to have an impact for communities, for nature, for animals, for children, for so many things around me. It was crazy for me to discover that I'm not that small. I'm actually pretty big, and I started to create bigger things, which is super cool. Hi, Caroline. Caroline has been there for me through so many chapters. Thank you. So I have some questions for you. Where in your life are you still waiting for external permission instead of just going for it? When deep down your soul is ready to say yes. And then if you believe that you were already abundant, how would you show up differently today? And then I'll share the final episode, who I have become right now. So I still make a lot of money with my company every year. I still love showing up for online coaching, teaching. I also have a lot of books. I wrote a book called Millionaire from the Heart, where you can actually read more about my story. And it's also full of exercises. And I think more than a book about money, it's also a book about self-leadership and how you show up every day to actually create an extraordinary life. So it's so much more than money. It's about all the dreams that you can accomplish that are in your heart. I also hired a lot of people to delegate. So the past few years, I've been a lot about freeing up time and how to put in systems in my company so that I would have more time, which I totally succeeded doing that, because now I work less. And which allows me also to have running programs in French and showing up in English and spending time developing my YouTube channel, although it does not bring any money yet. So it's very interesting to see that, okay, I free up time, so then I can just open a new chapter and do something differently, show up differently in the world and serve with my gifts. So this has been something also very important. I've been working with different coaches. So for 3 years I worked with Regan Healia, and I kept also working. I always have coaches, you know. Even now I'm in a few different coaching containers, and I will always have coaches. And it's I understood that if I want to not only save time, but if I want to have mentors that show me what is possible, to embody that, it really shows me that, oh yeah, I can activate that in myself too, just by being in touch with someone who did it. So it's so valuable to me that now I want to continue. Like today, I bought a new course today with my husband. We're going to do that together. But since the beginning of this year, I probably bought like 5 courses. I finished 1 for now, but I have 4 that I'm doing. Maybe I should talk more about that, because this is a big part of my life. What else do I want to share? I think money is an amplifier. So I used to think that money would change me, but actually it just showed me more of who I am. And also because I worked a lot on fears, then the fears could vanish before I became richer and richer and richer. So now I'm much more able to welcome new levels of abundance. Also, I understood that money comes in so many ways, you know, and sometimes I make a little bit less in the company, which, I mean, I made $1 million in 2022, and then it was less, you know, the year after 800 something, last year 600 something. But at the same time, I started to become an investor. So I started to make money with crypto. I started to make money investing in companies. I started to make money in various ways. So kind of rebalances. And it's also great for me because then it creates more security, more stability, not having all my eggs in one basket. Although I was never afraid, because I know that the abundance that I created come from the core of who I am. So even if everything were to disappear, I know I could recreate it with who I am today. Obviously, it would be different because now I'm a different person, but I know that because I know how to create it, I would be able to redo it again and again and again in different ways, because this is something you unlock in yourself, and then you can find the path again because you have it. It's not going to disappear. Yeah, I spent a lot of time working on myself. I think as a conclusion, maybe that's what I would share. It's for me, abundance is a byproduct of embracing the fullness of who we are. And there is like a vitality that we can let flow through us, and we can create from the heart. And this will overflow from us. And this will make us attract the right opportunities, the right people, the right clients, the right ideas. And then we have to honor those ideas and give birth to them and fully commit every single day and keep delivering greatness. And I think we underestimate that the fact that a lot of people today are not so alive, and they're seeking this aliveness in their daily lives. So they're super happy to find us, and they're happy to pay us. So this is something that I started to learn more about and to embrace. Voila, that was a lot of things I shared today. I have a few more questions. So if you trusted that your heart's dream are proof of your potential, what bold move would you make today? And where are you still waiting for certainty when what your next level actually requires is faith and self-permission? This is my final questions for you today. I'm going to copy them. There was a lot of questions. I'm going to copy them in the description of this replay. If you have additional questions, please, you can put them in the chat, in the comments of the replay, and I'll be happy to come and answer them, either written or maybe I can do another live. I want to help people understand that it's possible for them too, without compromising their values, and just by embracing who they are and by healing their relationship with money. I think it's all about creating a very loving relationship with money and understanding that there are so many ways to create this. And there is not like one way. I'm not going to tell you you must become an entrepreneur and create courses. No, maybe your path is actually to be an employee, save a little bit money on the side, maybe have time to write books, maybe create something on the side or invest, and then you're going to multiply it. You have no idea what's going to happen to you if you are open to it and not tight and protective, because I do believe that this is the same, like Rumi says in his quote, don't look for love, look for the obstacles that you put between you and love. It's the same with money. Don't look for money, look for the obstacles between you and abundance. And then when you've done the work, you will see that actually the opportunities are always all around you, and it's your job to seize them and to really show up for them. And you can't show up for them if you're distracted. You can't show up for them if you don't understand what are your priorities. You can't show up for them. Hey, hi. And yeah, it's your choice, and it starts with you, really. I have a course, Make Money from the Heart, which starts soon. I don't know when you're going to listen to this replay, because obviously it's going to be, people find replays all the time, but we start May 3rd. I already helped 500 plus people to heal their relationship with money. I'm ready for you. I will hold your hand every step of the way. It's an 8-week program, but you can do it on your own pace. I know people who've done it, within 16 weeks because they wanted more time. They spread it, and you will always find help. You will always find support among the group with me, with Joanna, which is with me in the group. She's a coach that I trained myself. And you're going to find beautiful people who are on the same journey with similar values and who also want to make a difference in the world. And I believe that my abundance today is not only for me. And yes, I do enjoy it. I do enjoy my villa and the massages and going shopping and all the things and the fancy life that I built. And yeah, I love it, and I want that for you too. But I also love how my abundance has an impact on other people around me, and how I can support other people and invest in their projects and help animals and all the things that I'm doing today. And I have a vision that more people, more of us are going to do that and fully show up, and that we're going to enter a beautiful golden age where we do better and where we invest our money where our heart is, and where we just do greater, and we don't have to make poor choices because we can actually afford to have different options. And this is what I want for all of us. If you'd like to work with me, just click in my link tree. You're going to find beautiful links. You can find my book. You can find my program. I have so many resources. I also have free resources on my website. And you can always ask me questions in the comments. Thank you for showing up today. Take your time to answer the first questions that I give to you today and dive deeper. You already have all the answers inside of you, and I believe in you. You're immensely capable of finding the way to really fully express who you are in this world and make a lot of money with it. So go for it. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.